Yo, what's up, guys? It's Dom, and you're tuning in to Talks with Dom, where we touch on the series of topics that dives into the creator within. Over time, the goal is to help each and every one of you partaking in this transformation to better understand who and where you are in your journey. So let's chop it up. All right, guys. So we're on point seven, right, for today, and that's called the friction, right? So that's basically aimed towards endurance and interpretation, basically, right? So where we're going is why do we assume that what's meant for us should be easy, right? If it's difficult, we think it's wrong. If it's uncomfortable, we think we're off track. If resistance appears, we think it's a sign to stop, right? Why? What if friction isn't the rejection that we think it is, right? What if that friction is more of development, right? Um, I don't know if you guys remember from I think it was probably like two videos ago that I made, but then I was talking about basically how the work needs to work on you before it can work for you, right? Or how we should look for the work to work on us before it can work for us, right? And so, in certain ways, I feel like that work, that thing that we choose, that we believe is for us, that we're walking down, that we're just like, yeah, this has to be my purpose. This is something that's been with me forever. It's just something that's been in my mind, around my realm. You know what I mean? So it just kind of like, if that's the thing, right? Sometimes it's a certain, like, it's a path that we go down, right, when we're trying to become that person inside of that lane, inside of that thing that we do, right? It's a particular person that we have to become from the level that we are before we even start to get there, right? um we confuse difficulty with misalignment, right? I think that we start to take a step into that lane, and I feel like that we kind of face like difficulty, and then we kind of bag back. You know what I mean? We kind of just be like, like I don't really know. You know what I mean? Like if there's something that I'm really supposed to like go all the way in for, because if this is what it's going to feel like for a good amount of time, I don't know if I'm really prepped for that, if I'm really ready for that. But in all reality, that feeling, like that first blockage, that first road, um, that first crossroad, is basically like, I feel like a test. It's that testing of where we're headed, right? And it's not something that we should take cautiously. It's something that we should take like head on. We should go into it head on because it's for us. It's something that's actually trying to work for us, right? And in order to be able to reap the benefits of the work that's done on us, to be able to have that work for us, we have to let that thing come into us, right? We have to let that thing drop the value onto us. You know what I mean? Drop that experience onto us so that when we're going to that next stage, we understand, like, we understand the threshold, right? We understand what it takes and stuff to be able to stand like what's to come in the future, right? Because as you continue to level up, as I said before, as we continue to go to that next step, into that next step, into that next step of ourselves, not for what people think it is, not for the expectations of what people think it is, but we face a different challenge, right? And the reason for those challenges is to better us in a better way. I feel like that God has us here, and he puts us through tests and trials to be able to become better, you know what I mean, within the creator within, right? So we believe that purpose is supposed to be natural, um, and it's supposed to be like, it's supposed to feel that way at like at all times, and it's just more of like, of course, it's going to be natural, right? But it's going to be a up and down, journey, right? Like you're gonna have times where you feel like you're on top of the world. You're gonna have times where you feel like, dang, this is just not working for me. This is just not what I thought it was going to be. This is just not the best of views that I actually thought that this would be. In which I feel like that those lows, like the valley point, I feel like that's my thing from church and stuff like that. Like I get like the valley, right? Your valley view, right, before you go back up. We appreciate that up and everything to be able to withstand like what that takes to be there through those valley moments, right? Um, a seed naturally grows into a tree, right? But just because that seed grew into a tree over time, that doesn't mean that that seed growing into the tree didn't face any type of resistance at all. Like throughout that period of time, there's resistance through the soil of seeing that tree become a small tree and seeing the branches and everything branch out and stuff like that, and being able to become stronger and stronger and taller, and being able to flourish and spring out and change colors and drop branches and leaves and stuff like that, and change over time to become what it's actually supposed to be in its fullest, in the full fulfillment, right? So I definitely believe that yeah, like we should look at that, like we should face that resistance in that same way, to understand that resistance is more for the longevity, even for short term things. So like it's definitely going to be resistance, but that resistance is there to build you for the endurance that we need, right? Every meaningful thing requires capacity, just like we had just went over, understanding that each level, like it's going to be a different challenge. But as you're going up, right, and as you're facing these things and passing these tests, you gain something in the mental, you gain something spiritually, you gain something physically, right? And once you gain these things, it's something that just can't be taken away, right? Once you get to a certain stage in life, once you see certain things in life, it's just certain things that you just can't unsee, and certain things that you can't go back from. Meaning, like, dang, like once I felt this kind of endurance and power behind going through tests and really challenging myself, like, you can never go back to not truly understanding. You can never go back to that feeling of what it was of not knowing it wholly, I guess you can say, because you just kind of like, once you get there, you feel that thing and be like, dang, like I remember what that was, but could I ever go back to that moment of understand of what that was? Once you cross that line, it's a little difficult to cross back over to that line. um what I mean? It's going to be bigger assignments, right? But those bigger assignments means bigger responsibilities, right? It's going to require way more growth, way more understanding and comprehension, right? We shouldn't see that growth as punishment, right? We should see that as preparation, right? It's all about your interpretation about how you look at these things, right? That thing, like that interpretation of how you see the trials that you go through, is going to be the outcome of where you can truly go. Because a person that could see those tests and trials as something that can really take them to that next level, right? Mentally, that's the thing that's pulling them through those tests and keeping them disciplined and keeping them consistent and keeping the integrity strong, you know what I mean? And keeping that endurance going. But the person that looks at the tests and trials, that's like, dang, it always happens to me. Like, why does it have to happen like this, right? You feel me? Like, I was almost there and everything. That's always gotta go like this and stuff like that. Like that mentality is always going to be the limiting box that's always going to cover you when you have that, right? So being able to look at it in a different view, that's definitely going to be the number one thing that's going to help out through these times of friction, right? Later on, in like the next couple videos and stuff, as time comes, I want to dive deeper into the things that truly stops us, like when it comes to character, when it comes to who we are, like behind the scenes, kind of like peeling back the layers of things that we go through from childhood to whatever age that you're at, um, which could be pockets of trials and tests that were already tested and went through over time, which built you to this moment of being here watching this video right now, understanding and building on your purpose that you believe that you have, whether you found that or whether you're still on the search, right? um we're going to dive into that and everything later on, because I really want to touch on a couple things that could be more fruitful for people that truly need to understand deeper of where these things come from, what kind of friction, right? Um, our friction, when we're going through different things too, is here to reveal. You know what I mean? It's very revealing. So being able to understand that you're looking yourself in the mirror, I kind of see it that way. You know what I mean? When you're facing these trials, like it's almost like you're looking yourself in the mirror. You see where you're impatient. You see where you're not as confident. You see where you're not as disciplined, consistent. You know what I mean? Like you see where you react a little bit more emotionally than logically. Like you see how certain triggers and everything tend to take you to certain points. And it's just more of kind of like all of these things kind of wrap around who you are as a creator. But understanding how to flip those things into superpowers is what we're here to do as a collective. Me and the person that's watching this, you, the person that's watching this, like we're here to turn these things that's within us into superpowers so that we could empower the next person that we're around, right? um, the obstacle becomes the teacher, right? I always say, like, I talk to my fam and talk to my friends and everything, and I've always said, even back before I was even on this journey, of always becoming or always being the student, right? When you're leveling up and growing and trying to become better within yourself, always being able to be a student to new things and just new like value that's coming around. Like, you know what I mean? Because you just never know where that could come from. You know, it can come from far left field. You know what I mean? And being able to being a person that's so shielded to new information and not truly wanting to learn because believing that you know it all is also telling people that you truly know nothing, right? But it's just more of, if you don't understand that, life has a way of presenting that to you and kind of sitting you down and allowing you to have a front row HD ticket, right? So it's just kind of like that's an understanding that you could take with you. You know what I mean? You could take that to the bank for sure. Always being able to be a student in times like these, right? Um, it's more of once you find that path, or if you've already found that path, then you'll see why it's worth growing for. And if you haven't found that, once you find it, then you'll be like, okay, this is the path. Like I finally found the path that's worth growing for. And you finally start to go through these steps of understanding, like, wow, this is what happens, right? Because soon as you start to take those steps into that, soon as you start to mentally change yourself, soon as you start to physically change yourself to want to be better and want to walk down the path that's meant for you, that's when friction starts to knock on the door, right? And it's just more of like, we should understand what that knock is like. we should understand what time that friction usually comes around, and even when we don't know, being able to be prepared for that is always something that we should want. You know what I mean? So that's really the topic though for today, though, guys. It's called the friction, right? Just understanding what that is, guys, and how that comes to, and how it comes to be for, if we look at it as a bad point, like something that happens to us instead of for us, then you won't really be able to see the fruit that is really here to grow within us, right? So it's really for the good, and anything that like the friction wants to make bad, we can turn it into our good, right? So let's think about it like that. Let's change our perspective. Let's have a more comprehensive interpretation on what friction truly is for us, guys. But until the next one, though, guys, peace.